All right, well, welcome to week 10 of our 7 Habits of Long-Term Care programming call. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Is it in the right window?
Now we see everything. We see it. It's just tiny.
Okay, so I need to switch it like I usually have to do. Boom, how's that?
Yep, perfect.
Okay. So we wanted to focus this week on giving you some tools. We've spent 9 weeks talking about different best practices, talking about how we should be documenting and different things we need to have in there. So we want to start giving you some different tools that you can use to, kind of check out your documentation and help make this process a little easier. So what we're going to talk about today is the goal status report. Hopefully you've all pulled this before, but just in case you haven't, we're going to go through how to pull it and then how to interpret and use the information that you're going to find in there. So the goal status report is a report that's in NetHealth that everyone has access to, assistants, evaluators, everyone, that will show you every goal that's been written for that patient since the eval and the progress or lack of progress that has been made toward those goals. So to pull the goal status report, you can either click the reports tab across the top and search for it, or it is listed on the right of everybody's homepage in NetHealth under My Favorites. Fun fact, these aren't necessarily my favorites, but NetHealth has picked everyone's favorites for them, and they're all the same. But down here on the bottom, there's one that's called Goal Status. So if you click on that, it's going to automatically open up your goal status report. When you go in, you're going to have a drop-down box that looks like this. The only thing you're really going to need to change is you're going to want to change it to your discipline. So you can choose PTOT or speech, and then you're going to choose the patient that you want to look at. You can leave everything else the way it is and then click view, and it's going to pull up the goal status report. When you pull it up, it's going to look like this. What this shows you, it's going to go through each one of the goals that patient has written. So it's going to have the short-term goals listed. I didn't copy and paste all the way out here because it was a funny kind of format, but it's going to show you what the goal is. And then what it shows you here is what we recorded on the evaluation as prior level of function. And then it's going to show you what we recorded as their functional levels on each of our progress notes. Where there's a P, it means we wrote a progress note, and on our research. That's the R's for the research. So you can see that prior level of function for this goal, the patient was max assist. And it shows that on the first progress report, they were mod, research mod, progress report mod, research mod, and progress report. So it shows you if any comments have been written towards the goals. And it's going to go through that for every goal for you. So this is a great way to visually see all of the progress or the lack of progress that's been made with a patient. Sometimes we're so used to treating these patients and we feel like we're seeing so much progress, and we fill out those progress notes and we don't really go back and check to make sure that we truly are making the progress towards those goals. It's also super helpful if you're not as familiar with the patient. If you're an evaluating therapist and you haven't really treated this patient since the last time you wrote a progress note or research, sometimes it's hard to remember where they were last time. Or if you're, taking over this patient from another therapist that has left, or maybe a PRN therapist did the last progress report, it really helps you follow the treatment path of that patient and sees where we've added new goals, shows us where we might be kind of stagnant in goals and that we need to reevaluate that. It just makes sure that we don't have any blind spots. So maybe we're making great progress towards 1 or 2 goals, but do we have any other goals that look something like this? This would be a big red flag when we're using this report. You can see that for this patient, they have a short-term goal of rolling. They have a prior level of function of partial or mod. The E is for the level that they were on their eval, so they were dependent. Those first 2 weeks progress, they made some great progress. They were max assist, but then you can see every progress note in research since that time, they've been at the same level. And there were no comments written over here. So on 10/28, this person was max assist. On 130, that patient is still max assist. So we've kept that same goal now for 4 months with no real explanation of what's going on. So, sometimes patients don't make progress and there's reasons. So it's not that we would pull this report and say, oh my gosh, this patient needs to be discharged or we need to get rid of this goal right away. But it would make us need to look at these progress notes and research and see if we talked about why this patient wasn't making progress and why we were continuing with this goal if the patient wasn't making progress. So maybe the patient had some falls with some pain, which affected this research. And then maybe this poor patient ended up with a UTI on this next research. So they weren't really able to follow directions. So just as long as we have some explanations, but if we don't have explanations, if we see this on our goal status report and we're going to write our progress report and we just say patient's making great progress, then that's where we're at risk because there isn't great progress shown with this. And on one of our post stats about establishing and modifying goals, we've talked about this before. It states that if there isn't any identifiable progress, then the continuation of service without the evidence of the need for skilled intervention might be at risk for denial unless there's some kind of additional documentation to support the need for skilled services. So I just want you to think about, if you were Medicare and you were looking at this, are we going to pay for 4 months of this patient to just continue to stay at max assist without any kind of explanation of why we think they're going to get better, why we think they're going to be able to get back to this moderate assist, even though we haven't seen that progress? Apparently I put in a blank slide for your viewing pleasure. So we just want to remind you to use your tools. So this is one great tool that you have available to you. I recommend pulling up the goal status report anytime you're writing a progress note, anytime you're writing a recertification, just so you can kind of see that treatment path and where that patient has come from, where that patient is going, and how they've been doing along that path. There's also the initial document that we sent out in week 1 of this, that documentation thought questions. I really challenge you to use that when we're writing our documentation too, especially if you're stuck a little bit, because it gives you some of those questions. Have I put this in my reason for referral? Have I remembered to include this with my reason for skilled services? Did I include these on my 10s? So use those tools that we have available to you so that way we can all be successful. So I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions. All right. Well, then thanks for joining us today. And have a great week. Thank you.
Thanks.